Hey guys, Rorius here. Welcome back to the final hours of Half-Life Alyx. If you remember last time, we got up to the Chapter 6, God in a Box. It's been a little while since I last read, but I'm excited to see what else this final hours has in store for us. Eli Vance powers up the slide projector. A white image flashes on the wall of his room where he had hung a white sheet. This feels like it's part of the old story. Eli. There was an illusion of safety for a time, and then the Citadel appeared. It happened in a split second. All over the world, a chunk would disappear from the center of a city, to be replaced an instant later by one of these headquarters for the Combine. Aha! In an early version of Half-Life 2 script, novelist Mark Laidlaw fleshed out the intermediary years through a slideshow presentation that Eli Vance hastily arranges for Gordon Freeman. Huh. Interesting. C never made it into the final game, yeah. Yeah, basically people decided that it'd be a cool idea to, place the game between Half-Life 2 and Half-Life 1. So put it as a prequel to Half-Life 2, yeah. It was a really cool freaking concept art. Is that how you spell hotel in Russian? Looks a lot like it. Hotel. Whatever the case. Let's keep moving. Oh, early 3D designs for the armored head crab. Oh, crystals all over its back. That's cool. I don't remember seeing this one. I think this is the only one that's used in game. They could have used this as an alternative style, but I believe only this one is used. Or like a very similar one to this, at least. Might not be exactly this one, but a very similar looking one. Zen flora and fauna was everywhere, and that is why humanity was collapsing. They couldn't cope with it, says Valve artist Eric Kirkmer. Kirkmer? Ah, yes, here we go. And perhaps most importantly, a prequel wouldn't carry the weight of anything tied to Episode 3 or Half-Life 3. Yeah. Since Half-Life VR would naturally only be playable in VR headsets, making fans wait over a decade for Half-Life 3 only to create it as an exclusive VR sequel would, in the parlance of Valve, not be something that made customers super happy. Yeah. 2003 reference shots from Viktor Antonov, shot in Sofia, Bulgaria. Ah, inspiration for Half-Life 2. Yeah. Interesting. These are real world shots, real life shots in Bulgaria. For references for things in the game. A lot of just like general wear and tear on structures, but also like this style. This style does definitely exist in a form in Half-Life 2. Specifically in Half-Life Alyx. Does it show up in? No, I think it's in Half-Life 2 as well. I'm not 100% about that. This is where it's interesting. In Bulgaria, clearly they have a mixture of some amount of like Roman characters as well as Russian characters or Cyrillic characters. I mean, they've just got the word batteries there, but this one, Mokharabia, is that actually Mokharabia, or is that got other characters from another language? Because then there's Russian right here, or Cyrillic. Telefony. Service. Whatever the case. Keep moving. It's for like general stylistic stuff. It is specifically for Half-Life 2. So this was, that's interesting, because a lot of those, I feel like a lot of those were still used for Half-Life Alyx. Because there's some style buildings in there which look very much like stuff from Alyx. Oh, of course, interesting. And we're talking about like, talking about reusing assets from Half-Life 2, but then it says the scope naturally started to expand, but it says still the team didn't want to veer too far from what was already known to fans. You could make an argument that your art direction is sort of done already. Yeah. We went back to the original reference photo shoots for Half-Life 2 from Viktor Antonov and started thinking, what would City 17 look like a few years before the events of Half-Life 2? Yeah, because basically all the art stuff is already done, other than actually designing the assets. Like the concepting and stuff like that's already done, because the city already exists in Half-Life 2. So in terms of like concepting, all you really need to concept was the specific aspects of Alyx. So yeah, they for Half-Life Alyx, they would have just need to make things a little bit cleaner, probably a little bit more zenified in some areas, because there's probably more zen before the Combine really take their super grip. And yeah, like more construction of Combine stuff. Yeah. Really cool. I love looking at concept art. One conceptual idea that excited the team was showing the Citadel, the Combine's massive metallic skyscraper headquarters, under construction. Yeah, yeah. Images of the Stockholm phone exchange. Oh. I wish I could get a closer look. Is that just like masses of wires connecting in the middle of a town? The middle of a city? If so, what the hell? That's the weirdest way to do phone lines I've ever seen. We started imagining the under construction Citadel as this huge LAN party with wires everywhere, sort of like a huge Wi-Fi router. Oh, the Strider in the start of the game is in fact a different kind of Strider, an older Strider called a construction Strider. Video. Never before seen video of an early test of Strider fight in Alyx by Antimatter Brad Kinley? Oh god, so loud. I shot it out of their hand.
Shit.
You trying to fight a Strider with a pistol? Sorry, I moved my mouse on the screen by accident.
Damn it.
Yeah. That's just a Half-Life 2 Strider, as opposed to the more advanced version of a Strider that they used, that they sort of like... Oh. Nice. I'm gonna say, the Strider in the Half-Life Alyx is much more
Stay down.
appropriate for VR. Because like it acts differently, because you don't want to have just a regular Strider when you're doing VR stuff. It doesn't feel nearly as good as like crafting it to be played, you know, the way that it would be played in VR. Here's a really interesting, well, in my mind it's a really interesting piece of information here. I remember asking Ted Backman, the designer of the original creature, the Strider, are Striders just creatures the Combine jam bits of machinery onto? And he said that no, the Combine actually scanned the Strider in its natural environment and then recreate it synthetically. So for Half-Life VR, we thought we'd make a Strider where the recreation wasn't quite perfected yet. The Strider isn't just a synth. I mean, it is, but it's not a cyborg like the human synths are. Because that's what I've always thought. I've always thought Striders, gunships, the synth walker thing that you only see in Half-Life 2, you never actually fight it. I always thought that they were just animals that the Combine had found on other planets or other dimensions and like shoved bits onto. Much like how the Gonarch was going to have, like, there was going to be a Gonarch. By the way, the Gonarch is like a head crab mother. The Gonarch was going to have like a bunch of, there's going to be a Gonarch in Half-Life 2 with like mechanical stuff all around it, so that the Combine could like birth head crabs from it and use those head crabs in the shells that they fire at you. The shells that they fire out with head crabs in them, they were going to be formed from these Gonarches. And the Nilanth, whatever, has mechanical pieces attached to him, and it's implied that he had those bits attached to him by something or someone, possibly the Combine, you know? So that's interesting to know. They don't always, Like, with the humans, they're taking them and modifying them, but that's not always the case. Oh, another complete circuit thing. Wait, I'm gonna do something. Oh, you can't go the bottom way, okay. I was like, if there's two ways, I wonder if they unlock different things. No. It's impossible to get the bottom way to work. Alright, so we got concept art of combined characters for Half-Life Alyx, including the Vort capture unit. Oh. Is that what these is? This is a Vort capture unit? Well, here's the frickin' immolator guys. What are they called? Oh. I don't think that, I mean, they don't exist. I'm just like skimming through it. Oh, this is the Vort capture. Oh. I wonder how they work. I was gonna say, because I thought maybe this was the Vort capture unit, because I thought maybe this device, when a Vortigaunt tries to fire lightning at them, it like catches the lightning instead of allowing it to hit the unit. Like it's like a lightning rod, but for Vortigaunt energy. But yeah, there's like a heavy gunner. I don't know what this is supposed to be. Like a flame unit? It's got some sort of pack on its back. But I'm pretty sure that pack became the packs that they all have, that all the Vortigaunt, sorry, that all the Combine have in the main game, and you can shoot that pack and it kills them instantly. Because it like releases whatever gas or oxygen or whatever that they're being fed. Yeah, so these are the individual unit types. Regular Combine soldier with like Kevlar and the AR-2. This is the heavy gunner again. And this is the heavy guy. This is the guy with all the armor. It's like an early version of the guy that that has all the armor that you have to like take down with a shotgun. Well, he has a shotgun, sorry. Oh! Combine with no mask on, with a face, with a regular human face. Huh. I like how they keep going back and forth, seemingly, between, like, bug-eyed and, like, regular eye. So wait, are all three of these guys Vort units? They got the special Vort unit symbol. Yeah. The cremator, that's what they're called. Not the immolator. The cremator. I still don't really know what they are. Really fascinating. And I love this. It's a Combine on a mechanical horse, or like a cyborg horse, where they replace the head with something, but the body is still the same. And then he's got a stun baton on a like a pole. That's fascinating. The cyborg horse is super fascinating to me, and same with the stick. Yeah, like rhino plating for it's heavy armor, although I don't believe that they didn't really use that in the final. And then the Vort capture, that's really interesting. I guess the armor is supposed to be like absorbent of the Vortigaunt energy. I don't know. Not sure how they're supposed to work, but that's really cool. Interesting. Someone just sort of came up with the idea, what if somehow the G-Man is in trouble or prison in the prequel? What you have to do as a player is free him so he can bring Gordon back to Earth and trigger the events of Half-Life 2. Interesting that they just had that approach seemingly relatively early on, because the way it's revealed in the game feels like it's like they almost weren't sure whether to go with G-Man or Gordon, and they ended up going with G-Man instead. I don't know. Oh, they're 5 years before Half-Life 2. I actually didn't know how long it was before. I knew it was some time before, but I didn't know how many years or whatever. Alyx Vance and her multi-tool. The star of the game. Yeah. They zeroed in on Alyx. But like, who else would they have chosen? I still reckon though a Half-Life Barney would be cool. Of course, yeah. Since she is a skilled hacker, Alyx's multi-tool device was an especially fertile area to explore for new types of VR gameplay, such as the hacking minigames. But like, there's so much more that they could have and kind of did do with it. More than just hacking minigames. Because it's like how you interact with stuff. It's like a super unique part of the game. Oh, that would have been freaking awesome. In early concept work, the team dreamed up a man-hack hacking game where Alyx would grab a Combine man-hack drone out of the sky, hack it with her multi-tool, and throw it back at enemies. Ah. We love the idea of this ball you would throw that would open up into a robot. Yeah, yeah. Oh, the hacking minigame survived, but the man hack part of it didn't. That kind of sucks, because I love that idea. I love the little rotating piece there. Oh god. Interesting. And in Half-Life 2, by the time Half-Life 2 comes around, this taser end part of it just becomes like wireless. She doesn't have to be like right up against it to do it. She just like from a distance. Oh, his original model. Nice. Yeah. The elevator pitch in the earliest days was a coming-of-age story for Alyx, he recalls. Spayer recalls. You saw Alyx in Half-Life 2 episodes as a highly capable, resourceful, post-apocalyptic hero, but you don't know how she got to develop those capabilities. Half-Life VR or Half-Life Alyx could tell you the story of the first test on her own, yeah. Ah, that's right, originally Laszlo was the one who was gonna be, you know, guiding you around, and this is Laszlo here. Poor Laszlo! Die-hard Half-Life 2 fans may remember him as a character briefly featured in Episode 2 as the finest mind of his generation. Yeah, was it in Episode 2? I was gonna say, it's not Episode 2. Briefly featured in Half-Life 2, not Half-Life 2 Episode 2. Because he's in the Sand Traps level, which is in Half-Life 2. It's the finest mind of his generation. Yeah, they got this fact wrong. He was a friend to the family uncle guy, who was a little kooky, gives her a gun, and permission to go into the City 17 quarantine zone because there's a message directed at her from a Vortigaunt cut from the Vortessence. Right, so he originally guided you straight to the Vortigaunt, not specifically... Interesting. I wonder if that's why they... I wonder if this is the first story they were talking about, because there was a whole story they had come up with before they got the old writers in. So I wonder if this is the old version. They had Laszlo directing Alyx to go to a Vortigaunt because there was a message being sent from a Vortigaunt. But that of course changed in the later. They changed it around. What would it take to trap the G-Man? Yeah, they're talking about the finale now. What kind of facility would the Combine have to build to lock God into a box? To capture G-Man, the Combine had to scoop up an entire apartment block that'd be sucked into a massive Star Destroyer-sized sky prison. Yeah. It says here, the G-Man's gravitational influence was too strong to have the facility on the ground. Interesting idea. I think in my mind, it's more so that the prison itself has some sort of like space-time manipulation being done on it to avoid G-Man being able to escape it, because G-Man can just move through space-time. He can just teleport wherever he wants. Yeah. This slideshow is the evolution of the vault, the box that would contain the G-Man. Yeah. This is like an older version. This is a more like the modern version. Because it had that sort of like long shape to it. This one's much more square. Whereas this one's got like a longer look, which is what the vault ends up looking like. It's a big long... To me, it looked like a piece of the Citadel. But then I realized the Citadel already existed in Alyx. It was already there. Mouse controlling the background. It was clear the scope of Alyx was beginning to grow well beyond a 4-hour Half-Life 2 VR experience. Privately, some inside Valve wondered if a game designed exclusively for VR warranted the kind of investment it would take to ship what was starting to sound more and more like a full-blown prequel to Half-Life 2. Oh god. Some of the pieces are just floating, what the hell? Nothing else I can press? I can just rotate around. Can't zoom in, no. Neat. Anyway, yeah, manhack. Alright, chapter 7. God, it takes me so much longer to read through this than I ever expect it to. It's been half an hour and I've done one chapter. Holy crap. Yeah. What are you doing next? Ask anyone at Valve about what one of the best perks of the job, and they will invariably respond with the company trip. The trip to Hawaii. In this chapter, they're talking about the issues of designing a VR game when everyone at the office is familiar, is used to, you know, your classic WASD, WASD keyboard and mouse style action shooters. But VR is very different. It's a very different medium. Early planning whiteboard from the team on Alyx's adventure. Yeah. Interesting. They had a bunch of stuff here, but they didn't necessarily have the motives yet. See, their vault. Did it say garbage? Or garage? I don't know. Oh, there's garage here. There's caves. So they had the plans for the caves. Oh. Disguise section, question mark. That'd be cool. That would have been awesome. But no. Courtyards? It's a hotel. The reason I brought it up was that, like, there's a hotel here, but this says Y Zen Hotel. Objective? We know now that the objective ended up being that you were freeing a Vortigaunt up the top of the hotel, who then would help you disconnect the cable from the vault. Here's a close-up, I think, of the... Yeah, Antlion tunnels. Portal storm shit. Nice. Combine PR, first Breen cast. That did not end up happening. I don't believe it did, anyway. I don't remember seeing Breen. I saw, like, letters and stuff. Ah, Laszlo's. Nice. And there's lab here. Vault. Events of Half-Life 2 over this way. The Vort encounter in the sewers. Yep. Anyway, back to it. Yeah, it's saying that Valve's games had always been amazing, but in many ways were built off the shoulders of what id Software had proven with Doom and Quake. Here, if Valve played their cards right, maybe it could create the Doom of VR, yeah. How would AI work in VR? When players can't sprint at 25 miles per hour as they do in first-person shooters, how do you create a fair, intense firefight? Especially in an environment where players expect, and the medium demands, enemies that are more realistic and lifelike. Forward investment. Yes, given the success of Steam, Valve can do what Gabe Newell calls forward investment into long-term technologies and ideas that may not pay off for years. Yeah. Half-Life VR wouldn't need to be profitable if there's a greater goal in play, pushing the virtual reality ecosystem forward. 100%. That's what they went for, although I believe Half-Life Alyx did make them money. Because a whole lot of people bought VR for it. And a whole lot of people, like a lot more people bought Half-Life Alyx than they ever thought would. Well, at least not at this time, at this stage, and so early on. Yeah, because they were concerned beforehand about the small install base and potential alienation. The thing is, what I'll mention is that much like people now not able to play Alyx because it's in VR, because they don't have a good enough VR system or they don't have a good enough computer, I had the same experience with Half-Life 2. When I was a kid, we had the shittiest computer. We had a really old XP. And when Half-Life 2 came out, we could not run Half-Life 2 on our computer. So it took ages before I was able to play Half-Life 2. Even though I loved Half-Life 1 to death, I didn't get to play Half-Life 2 until it came out on PS3 because I didn't have a system capable of playing Half-Life 2. So there definitely will be plenty of people in the same boat with the VR system. But, you know, as technology develops and as things get cheaper, people will eventually be able to play it. They'll have the same experience I had with Half-Life 2. And that's not a problem necessarily. It creates, like, the sensation, the feeling of, like, wanting to play the game, and it actually builds it up in some way. Because when you finally do play it, you know, you'll have been wanting it for all those years. Like, I wanted to play Half-Life 2 for so long. When I finally did play it, I was kind of blown away. Although it was not the game I was expecting it to be, honestly. Because I expected something closer to Half-Life 1. I expected something darker and grittier. Probably more like the beta was. But, yeah, anyway. Enough rambling. Alyx, arrested by the Combine, kicks off the game. Yeah, this is the very start of the game. where Eli has been captured, and you all also are captured. Kuma and Walker spent their holiday polling employees who might want to join the project. So basically, they spent their holiday on like they're like missionaries trying to convert people to the project. That's where the question comes from. What are you doing next? Greg Kuma asked veteran Valve sound designer Dave Feiss. You should go talk to Robin. He's working on this game. Feiss, who had just finished work on the lab, was intrigued and found Walker around the hotel grounds. Yeah, we're doing this VR game using a bunch of Half-Life 2 assets, and they kind of look goofy as hell right now. We're gonna need some sound pretty soon. Early concept development for Half-Life Alyx. Yeah. Oh, that's like the playground area at the start of the game. That's cool. It's the one where I totally played with the playground stuff. I spun this carousel around, but apparently there's an achievement for it, and I did not get the achievement for it, and I'm mad. I haven't played through Alyx since I first played through it. I think because of the long time it takes. There's logic stuff here. As if this is actually a screenshot and they've drawn over it. Interesting. Yeah, I've not had the time really to go back and play through it again. It's quite a long game and it's all in VR, so it's quite a commitment, you know? When he returned to Seattle, Feiss rolled his desk over to the small Half-Life development room and spent the next 4 years meticulously working on the sound design. Holy shit. Just updating elements like Half-Life's famous health station recharge sound. 2020 audio fidelity. Yeah. Others were harder to convince. Mike Moraski. Been over an hour grilling Walker with questions about the project before agreeing to work on the game's music and sound design. I quizzed Robin pretty hard on why this game was actually going to ship and not get cancelled, admits Moraski, who often works out of his home studio in Berkeley, California. Walker's response: "This was an immediately compelling project. It's immediately fun to play, even in the prototype stage." Yeah. Oh, interesting. Oh my god, Walker's like the freaking Valve Jesus. He's become one of the like leading people behind the new Valve. Because it says here, as the scope of the game expanded and it became clear that high-resolution art assets and new characters would be required, more members of Valve began to question the project's long-term prospects and its opportunity cost. At one point, Walker even had to pull aside one senior member of Valve and tell him that his negative attitude about the project's resource drain was impacting morale. It's like one of the senior members of Valve was like being negative all the time and bringing everyone's morale down to the point that they might have actually ended up cancelling it if Walker hadn't been like, dude, shut the fuck up. We're shipping this damn product if it kills me. That's actually really cool to hear. My opinion of Robin Walker was already pretty high, but it's much higher now. Oh, explore Valve Times. Oh, we're back on Valve Time again. The past decade. Is this the same one as before? I think this is the same one as before, isn't it? Or is this fleshed out? No, there's still that same gap here. Yeah, why are they showing this again? We looked at this in the previous one. Let's skip it. Go straight to chapter 8. What's this chapter? Oh, is it loading? Ugh. Oh, who's this? Is another new member, is it? Sea Otters and Soapboxes. Amongst the matrix of development desks on the 14th floor of Valve, one monitor with a stuffed animal pigeon on top of it has a note taped to its front. In the field until April 06, it reads in block letters. This is character animation Christine Phelan. Phelan? Phelan? I don't know. In 2012, apparently her dream project was to work on Half-Life 3 someday. Juggles her work animating characters at Valve with her other passion, participating in carnivore ecology projects. Yeah, they were talking about tracking snow footprints of mountain lions. Okay. So she's also a character animator. Oh god, I can see something down here. I think I know who it is. Oh, tracked. Oh, there's a mountain lion. Oh. Oh, this is the note. I suddenly realized I was like, wait, I saw another thing I could click on. BRB. Working remote. Please don't disconnect PC. Oh, right, so that leaves a PC on at the office, and then she just like remote desktops into it. Interesting. Somehow, between that and her animation, Phelan is also an amateur soapbox race car designer and champion. Okay. Brutal Legend inspired soapbox? That's cool. Yeah. Phelan's apparently 5'2", and she jokes that she's the token short person for testing anything in VR. Yeah. Well, you need short people and tall people to test stuff in VR, so you know it's fine for any player. She's the motion capture actor for Jeff. Referred to internally at Valve as the blind zombie. Yeah. What is he? Like, what creature is he? That's what I really want to know, is like, what creature from Zen is like controlling Jeff? 8-1. Blind Zombie, aka Jeff. The blind zombie sequence, one of the best moments in Half-Life Alyx, is an example of Valve using VR to push gameplay in new directions. Yeah. They're saying, like, in Alyx you can basically just shoot anything, but the blind zombie grew out of a different premise. Could Valve build a VR level where sound, a crucial part of virtual reality, directly impacts gameplay? In a way, it was a throwback to the test chamber sequence in the original Half-Life with the tentacle monster that was attracted to sounds and vibrations. Yeah. I never thought of it like that. That's so interesting. Legendary Capcom artist Naru Omori joined Valve in 2015. Oh, I didn't know that. Omori began his career as a hairstylist at the Shiseido beauty salon in Tokyo. Oh, but he has an artificial lung and is irritated by chemicals and hairspray. Oh no. But now he's a concept artist of video games, yeah. Designed classic characters for Capcom franchise like Resident Evil and Dead Rising. Ah, cool. Oh shit. That's really interesting to see, like, Japanese game developers working at Valve. That's really cool. Really cool to see, like, because there's so many Japanese developers, Japanese game designer people that are so cool and done such awesome work. To see them working at companies like Valve, where they can push, like, their design styles into, like, games like Half-Life Alyx or whatever, that's really cool. That's really cool to see. And you get that mix. I've talked about this before, I love anything with, like, mixed theming. Like, I love games where they take one stylistic choice and they merge it with a gameplay choice that's, like not frequently done. Or when they merge two gameplay mechanics or two style ideas together. Like, when it comes to style, there's, like... I always talk about... When I think of styles and merge styles specifically, I always think of Little Big Planet 2, which has... Every level in that game has a merged style. The second level of the game, I think the second level? Yeah. Is steampunk and cakes. So, you have, like... They're both Victorian themed things, but, like, one of them is, like, cakes and soft goods and stuff like that, and then it's merged with the, like, metallic gears and cranks and stuff of steampunk, and they just work really well together. And then you have, like, something very different, which is one of my favorite styles, which is the Neon Rebellion, which is like 50s era. It's like 50s era propaganda, if you will, where it's like that classic diner scene kind of look, but then it's merged with, like, neon stuff from, like, 80s neon stuff. Or you know, there was neon stuff in the 50s as well. There's, like, neon mixed in there. And then, like, the rebellion imagery with, like, the raised fist imagery and stuff like that, which is so the opposite of what, like, the 50s is all about. The 50s was, like, all conformist and, like, everything was, like, prim and proper and perfect. You know, everything was, like, apple of your eye, perfect stuff. And to have, like rebellion imagery merged in with, like, 50s styles, really fascinating. to me. It's a really fascinating style. Oh, Omori's original concept art depicted not a zombie, but a robotic-like creature with a machine gun. Huh. Originally it would fire, if you threw the bottle, it would fire at the location where you threw the bottle. So it would like, imagine it, you like throw it, it like shatters and it would like spin around at the location. That'd be cool. We thought of scenarios like needing to shoot through a brick wall in an environment, and the only way to do it was to get the creature to fire its gun at the wall. Yeah. Explains Scott Dalton, a veteran Valve designer who studied the Japanese language and culture in college, right? Yeah, he argues that video games are part of Japanese culture, so he naturally did a lot of studying in the dorms. Yeah, like, that's the thing, is like Japanese game design, some of the Japanese games, Japan and games are like, for me, they're intertwined. The modern Japanese culture, you know? Japan was like, during the like late 80s, early 90s, Japan was like the leading force for a lot of games and game design. In the era where, even like mid-80s, early to mid-80s, where there was that era where games from the US were just shit. Just the worst games ever, because they were just being churned out for like a quick buck. Being made really cheap, making a few dollars each, and then thrown away. And the Japan came along and, like, specifically like Nintendo and Sega, they came along and they just made the games fun again. They made games good again. And then the American gaming market like picked up where they were, you know, driving the force. They changed it to hold a flamethrower. But then they decided to make it, they actually made it a corrupted combine soldier. Huh. The blind zombie proved to be one of the most exciting gameplay ideas during the first year of the project, sorry. Slideshow, look at the evolution of the blind zombie enemy. Yeah, initially, like a complete robot. But with like humanoid body. Ugh. This is like, yeah, it's like a combine soldier with the helmet and everything. But like the body is like fusing, like merged. It's like merging over the clothing. Or bursting out of the clothing. There's definitely some head crab legs sticking out of this one. This one is I remember seeing this design. This is the one with the tentacles. Yeah. But I think at this stage it still has the flamethrower. Yeah. Or some kind of gun. And there's yes, that's right. There's the Zen tentacle sticking out of it. An actual Zen tentacle. Ugh. Yo. Oh, interesting. That's very different. Oh. Just, oh. Ugh. Don't like that at all. And then they eventually have this one. Yeah, what's interesting is it's clearly, it's like, the Jeff is, oh, that's different again. This is more like what was the final one. Aw, speech bubble saying help. I hate that. And then this is like full on like plant. Yeah, clearly to me this is like the Zen flora like growing out of the face of the thing. Oh. This is the face underneath. And this is like what's on top of it. And this is the face is projecting an image onto the screen. Oh my god, that's cool. Slowly got replaced with like the, oh, okay. Yeah, there's the final design. Yeah, clearly there's like, it's Zen flora growing on him. But like, I can't help but feel like there's, the idea is that there's a head crab. A head crab's turned it like fused and fully fused into him. But like there's Zen flora growing on him as well. Which makes me think that it's more than just a head crab zombie. It's like, because it's 100% more than just a head crab zombie. but like, does this mouth come from a head crab, or does it come from one of the, like, there's those like things that were going like this when I got close to them on the walls? I don't know. It's really weird. I don't know what Jeff is. Yeah, seemingly everything needs to be restructured for VR because they felt all wrong in VR. And what's interesting is I've really noticed that I noticed it really strongly in Fallout 4. Everything feels odd in Fallout 4. Nothing feels real in Fallout 4. It looks perfectly fine when you're playing it as a game. Soon as you put that VR headset on and you go into Fallout 4, everything feels like dolls. Everything feels sort of like odd. Nothing's proportioned correctly. You can't just like take a thing and then put VR on it. It feels weird when you're in that world. Yeah. Health stations and mid-packs are legendary items in the Half-Life universe used to heal the player, but the team wondered if there was a more realistic approach for Alyx than just having players run over a magical healing item. Yeah. Counter-Strike Go team created a health pin for the game, which inspired the Alyx team to build a syringe players can inject into their bodies in VR. Yeah. Oh, now we've got a health station though. Yeah. Health stations are cool in this game. Anyway, I thought this was the case. I could tell when I burst antlions in the game, like, because they changed antlions quite drastically in Alyx. They said when they first introduced the antlions into the game, initially they were just way too fast for players. Yeah, because they're really fast in Half-Life 2. So of course they're really fast in VR. Yeah, they'll be horrifying at their original speed. Yeah, they slowed antlions right down. They made it so that you could shoot off the limbs of the antlions to slow them down further. And they actually made them harder to kill, because in Half-Life 2 you could just shotgun them and they'd like die immediately. But they made them more resilient in Alyx. But then of course, as I said, they slowed them right down and made them to be able to be slowed down even further by shooting their limbs off. There was a test, there was a choreograph, like, character test they did on the G-Man called Wake Up Mr. Gordon. Not Mr. Freeman, Mr. Gordon. Yeah. Well, this is concepting for the antlion. Different mouths. I don't remember exactly which mouth they went with, but I would say of these ones, this is the only one that I think doesn't suit it. It looks odd, having like regular style teeth. Either just mandibles, or the horizontal teeth, or both. I think I like this one or this one. Actually, this one I think I like the best of all those. I don't remember which one that is in the game. Antlions are weird. Oh! Early 3D rendering test for Dr. Kleiner, not used. Yeah. Oh. Yeah, basically just talking about how difficult and how much more detail you have to put into animations for VR. Kleiner and Wallace Breen were both made for VR, or were made for Source 2. I just tried to rotate it, but it's just a picture. He looks quite a bit younger there. One set of characters that would return with a hunched, single-eyed hive-mind Vortigaunt, yeah. In an early test, the story Cabal imagined a more dramatic meeting between the player and a Vortigaunt. Oh. First animation test done by Karen Prell, an animator who previously worked for Jim Henson as the voice and puppeteer behind Red Fraggle on Fraggle Rock. Oh. Oh, another complete the circuit. Let's see if I can do both. No. Well, let's just see. Oh, I have to do both. Oh. No wonder I was like, oh, maybe I can do both. Yes, the Vortigaunt that's been cut from the Vortessence. This is like an early version with lots more metallic stuff on him. This is the version we see in game, where it's like bits, but they've been like removed. Early concept art for Gary, the Vortigaunt in Half-Life Alyx, Gary's Room, and City 17. Is his name Gary? I didn't even know his name was Gary. All I knew was that the creepy Vortigaunt who's been cut off from the Vortessence. What the? I look at the new muscle system in Half-Life Alyx as seen on the Vortigaunt. What is happening here? Yeah, they created actual bones for him. That's fascinating. But then there's like the animation bones here. But then they have a muscle system. Huh. Apparently he was supposed to be near death. Kit Vort was near death and the players were required to squeeze nectar from several headcrab hearts into the Vort's mouth to give him sustenance. However, the character's low energy and the repetitive player interactions slowed the flow of the scene. Yeah, they changed it to be funnier and higher energy. Swedish Chef Vort sequence, yeah, that's what it became. Because he was like cooking stuff when you arrive. Yeah, after the famous Muppet, yeah. Oh, basically they removed the required interactions, or most of them, and shifted them over to optional interactions, most of which I missed because I was so focused on him at the time. Exclusive, a look at a in-progress version of the Vortigaunt scene in Half-Life Alyx. Oh, is this the one where it's gonna be like, yeah, he's weak. Just like rip out Vortigaunt, sorry, headcrab hearts. There's a sound. There's no sound. There's no sound. Ooh. Just ooh. Oh dear. While Alyx was quickly growing into Valve's largest team, other projects and VR projects no less, were simmering in other parts of the building. As Gabe Newell told the media in early 2017, Valve had 3 different full-scale VR games in development. Alyx, the Arty project, resurrected as a VR experience. Oh! And a 3rd project, codenamed Simtrek, prototyped by some of the members of the team behind Kerbal Space Program. Oh! Simtrek. Development on both of those other projects stopped, however, as Alyx's team size continued to grow. So it's like, it's a good thing, but it's also kind of sucks because they would have worked. They worked for so many years on like the Arty project, but they never finished it because mainly because Alyx took over. But they should go back to it. If you've done all that work, just go back and finish it. What is wrong with them? Yeah. Anyway, yeah. At this stage, they'd already started secretly working on next-gen VR. The hope was to launch Half-Life Alyx alongside Valve's new next-generation VR headset, Vader. But also, back to the Vortigaunt. This is the Gary Vortigaunt, who's got like the head pieces. Yeah, he was cut off from the Vortessence by the Combine. Oh, we're up to chapter 9. What's this? What do we got here? The Death of Vader. But I thought the Vader was Index. Okay. This chapter so far is mainly talking about the hardware lab and the people, you know, working on VR hardware. And they frequently talk about how, interestingly, how Valve is trying to basically move, at least they were, trying to kind of move into a similar position to what Nintendo has, but like for VR. They frequently mention like Gabe Newell seemingly likes the Nintendo model, where Nintendo builds their consoles and then they build their games for that console. So Gabe Newell wants to do the same thing, where the game and the VR headset, or the game and the technology, whatever it is, are in tandem, are made and produced in tandem. But they're gonna have to change a lot about their model to make that work. One huge difference with Nintendo is that they have directors, and people are made to work on specific tasks. Hence why there's a million Mario and Zelda games, you know? Because with every new console, you want a Mario game or a Zelda game being released for that console, either on release or very shortly after release, so there's immediately something that'll draw people in to buy those consoles and buy the games. If Valve can't line up the Index and Half-Life Alyx, they've got a long way to go before they can be anything like Nintendo. Yeah, they have quite the hardware team, and apparently this is the lead guy behind the hardware team at this stage, Valve's Jeremy Sellen, who actually won an Oscar, it said up here. Before joining Valve, Sellen won an Oscar in 2014, presented by Kristen Bell and Michael B. Jordan, for his work on Open Color I/O, which is something I'm not really familiar with, but it's to do with film, color profiles and film footage. Yeah. Interesting. Now they're talking about Knuckles. And I guess the Index. Knuckles let player open their hand, forget the controller is there, and then grab it to do more. Yeah. Lawrence Yang, a Valve engineer who joined the company from Apple, where he worked on iMessage. But what's funny is seemingly the hardware team is all made up of software developers. Because Jeremy Sellen is a software developer. And now this guy, Lawrence Yang, worked on iMessage, which I'm assuming, it's a piece of software for Apple. That's cool. For initial Knuckles prototypes, the team purchased gloves off eBay, cut them apart, and taped Vive wands to the backs of the gloves. Why did they buy them on eBay? Just go to the store and buy some gloves. Dear. Until codenamed Valve's first proprietary headset was Vader, yeah. We weren't going to be held back by third-party and business realities. So we went a little crazy with our design for Vader, yeah. Here are some prototypes of the Knuckles controllers, which I have still yet to try. Yeah, they're all different, things where you can stick your hand around it. Oh, here's some gloves. But yeah, gloves, full-on gloves would be one of the best ways to do full-on hand movement interaction stuff. Detecting, flexing in the fabrics, so that you can have, subtle movement things. Would be really valuable for VR. Then the next stage is what some people are working on, a thing that's a full arm thing. It's a glove and a big device that's attached to your arm, and they have tubes that go to the glove pieces. And what happens, and it's not just gloves, by the way, there's big old pieces around each finger. It's big old things. It's a big clunky thing at this point. But basically the idea is that if you close your hand and there's an object in VR, the device, the big arm thing, will put high tension on the cables that are attached to the fingers, so that when you go to grab it, you can't, your fingers literally stop at the surface of the model. So it feels the effect is that it feels like you're actually grabbing something in VR, and it has a physicalness to it. And the idea would be to tweak that system so that, if there's an object that has some resistance, but then you can ultimately squish it, that it'll have some tension, a little bit of tension, but not too much. And as you squeeze down on it, it increases the tension to the point where it pops, where it completely releases the tension, like that. So that you get that feeling of and that, if you can apply that to the rest of the body, apply that to a suit, then you can have full immersion, VR immersion, in that physical sense. Oh, apparently Vader turned out to be too ambitious. I see. But this is what happens with all projects. This is an issue with a lot of projects, including game development stuff. People tend to want to make the world. This is how I always describe it. People tend to want to make the world when they should be making a room. They want to recreate the world. They want to recreate WoW rather than make a little 2D platformer with some basic, enemy mechanics. People tend to want everything when they should need to focus in on what's important. Those familiar with the Vader plans say that if the headset had somehow been manufacturable, it would have cost consumers upwards of $5,000. We didn't learn how to self-compromise very well. Yeah. Out of the ashes of Vader, however, came Frank, a new product with a new set of goals and new timeline. Frank project. Now known as the Index, so the Index is called Frank. If you have an Index, just know that its real name is Frank. Oh. The off-air audio design, the off-air audio system thing, was created by Valve's Emily Ridgway, which I think, yeah, I was going to say, this is Emily Ridgway, another member of Valve. Speakers that would hover about a centimeter away from the player's ears. Yeah, yeah. So that's better experience, having the audio like this. Like off-ear, but like still right there. I'm sure I would enjoy it, because I sometimes get, like, my ears get sore having my having headphones pressed against them. These are the best headphones I've ever had. Like, the cushioning in them, they've got like a huge amount of padding. That really helps me, because I've always had issues with headphones and like them hurting my ears. I wonder if this would be even better. Like, while this sounds like a good idea to me, the distance from the ears thing, I couldn't do it personally because I record myself playing games. So if I had my headphones open and the sound was going like that, it would get picked up in the microphone. Yeah. More so picked up in the microphone. Oh, Ridgway also joined Alyx as a sound designer and even wrote Combine Soldier AI dialogue. Oh. The Alyx team were like essentially prototyping or helping test the Knuckles controllers while they were being developed by Valve. That's cool. That is actually really cool, and that is basically what Nintendo does. While they're developing the console, they usually have a team making a game for it actively so that they can work in tandem to get the console to be built right, but also the game to be built around the console to some degree. That's really cool, actually. The team always planned to support all possible VR headsets. Yeah, that's the only problem with it. But the North Star goal was to build a game experience best played on Index. Yeah, so that makes it a little bit more challenging to line everything up. Oh, this is a slideshow of just Valve Index images. So these are the headphones that are off the ear. This looks like the Vader one. But maybe this is the start of the Index. Yeah. Computer circuits. Yeah, the Index, yeah. It's really fascinating how it feels like it's just... It kind of just feels like it's literally just stapling screens into a visor. But it's so much more technologically advanced and intensive than that. God, I haven't played my VR since I finished Alyx. Back in, what, April? It's only been 3 months, but still, it feels like it's been ages. This is Kerry Davis. This is another person who's relatively new to Valve. It's just talking about he wanted something different from most VR games. He says, most VR titles feature translucent virtual hands that a player can swipe through objects and walls like a ghost. That is the most common implementation of hands. Makes the game feel more like a simulation than reality. On Alyx, Davis sensed an opportunity to create more realistic and believable hands. A Half-Life game is about interacting with the world and a player feeling present in that world, so I wanted to figure out how to create solid hands. Yeah. If you reached out to touch a door, your hand wouldn't float through it like a magic trick. Instead, your in-game hand would change its pose to suggest it was resting against the actual door. Everyone freaked out about the physics and animation implications. Davis remembers with a smirk. Yeah, well, I mean, it had really big implications, because as there's like a talk that one of the members of Valve did about a door and making a door work in VR, because it's so much more complicated once you take that into account. Yeah, there's little doubt why people were freaked out. To create solid hands, Valve had to build a library of 50 different poses a hand could make as it interacted with an object in the environment. If the player went to grab a can of soda in the world, the computer needed to instantly sift through a pose library, matching the hand not only to the shape of the object, but the way the player was picking it up, from the side or top, for instance. Yeah. Oh? Oh, compute chips. Sorry, yeah, this is explore Alyx's Russells, aka gravity gloves, or gravity gloves, which is a much better name. Computer chips. The Russells are very much bashed together from a variety of computer chips and parts found around City 17. Yeah, what's this? A watch case. Oh, it is a watch case, yeah. What's inside the watch case? A tiny shard of the Zen crystal that powers Gordon's gravity gun in Half-Life 2. This is what gives the Russells the ability to lift and pull objects. Yeah. Fasteners. These fasteners help keep the gloves on Alyx's hands. Okay. I always wondered what these pieces were. Gravity gloves. The Russells give Alyx the ability to seemingly manipulate gravity. Yeah. Readout. The team experimented with various readouts on the gloves for ammo and health. Yeah, that's that's a really cool feature actually. Health readout. The hearts and the Legend of Zelda inspired this health readout on the gloves. Wow, Valve has taken more inspiration from Nintendo than I thought they had. I mean, I guess there's I realized the whole hearts thing, but I didn't realize it was directly inspired by Legend of Zelda. That's really fascinating. Yeah. Functionally, the gravity gloves prevent players from having to continually reposition the character in VR to pick up an item in the environment. That's the thing, is that's my single favorite function of Alyx, of Half-Life Alyx, is the gravity gloves. They solve a problem that almost every VR game I've ever played has. And that is like, sometimes just grabbing something in VR is difficult. Because you have the limitations of having like a headset. When you go to bend over to pick something up, you really, for me at least, I really become aware that I'm in VR. You know, I'm wearing a VR headset. There are moments in games where I lose my sense of reality and I'm truly immersed in the game. Picking something up off the floor, especially off the floor, and especially if it's in an awkward place, immediately drags me right out of that immersion. Having the gravity gloves, that just fully immerses the experience of picking something up. Like making it a gameplay mechanic is such a genius idea. And some games have that, like, have a system where if you have like in virtual reality, you had like these weird tethers, and they solve the same problem where like you could, using those tethers, you could just like pick up an object in the distance and it would be picked up by this tether and it had like physics on it and everything. That solves the problem as well. Anything that means that you don't have to physically, literally be in the location where you're grabbing the item, like immediately solves a lot of those issues. Interesting. We're before the time of Half-Life 2, so they can only grow these little small coin-sized crystals. They're talking about the crystals that power the gravity guns. And the watch case on the glove is like a little armor case for the crystals. Right. So this is at the end of 2017. They were like, okay, we need new everything. High-resolution game assets, enemies, gameplay, everything needs to be done again. Meanwhile, the story was still being determined. But yeah, we got another Valve time thing, so we'll skip right past it. We're up to chapter 10. I'm gonna get to the end of chapter 10, and that's the end of this episode. Oh. Once again, it's taking me like 2 hours to record this. The dark days of City 17. Right, yeah. Oh, there's a thing to click immediately. Dario Casali with his two brothers and mother Kim. Oh, this is like a family photo from when they were really young. Oh, New Zealand cartoonist. Wait, I gotta read this. Casali is the son of famed New Zealand cartoonist Kim Casali, who wrote the famous Love Is series of cartoons in the late 60s. I don't know, I'm not familiar. But New Zealand, hey! So the Casali brothers, who's the main one? Dario and his brother, whoever his brother is, whichever brother it is. Apparently they made levels in Doom that were so good. It says that the Casali brothers were such talented map makers that ID Software hired them to create the Plutonia Experiment, a 32-map set of Doom 2 levels they created in the span of 4 months. Huh. In 97, Casali was plucked from the internet to join Valve as one of its first level designers. Right. They helped design the Alien Research Lab in Half-Life, and for Half-Life 2, worked on City 17 in Ravenholm, the former mining town and resistance stronghold. Holy shit. That's cool. Many of the original Half-Life designers have slowly retired or left Valve over the past 2 decades, yeah. But Casali stayed put. He took a 6-week break just a sabbatical, you know, before jumping into Alyx stuff. But it says, coming back from his trip abroad, Casali realized that the team had assigned out all the levels during his absence. All that was left was the vault, the finale. It was a black box with no gameplay in it, and G-Man. I bet Casali, I bet he's the reason that there is gameplay in the vault. There's the whole, like, boom, like, electricity through the hand thing. Based on the original Story Cabal pitch, the finale was a jailbreak of sorts. Alyx would free the G-Man from Combine's floating cage and thus trigger the events that would lead to Half-Life 2, yeah. I mean, that's basically how the story does end up going, but I bet a lot of details about it were changed and tweaked to be much better. Because I'd heard that the original story, people were like, this sucks. And so they got Jay Pinkerton and Eric Wolpower to come in and like rewrite a bunch of story. But I'm curious what parts they rewrote and what parts they changed drastically and what parts they only changed a little bit. I know Laszlo changing to Russell was one of those things. Russell being quite comedic, because that's Eric Wolpower and Jay Pinkerton are very much comedy writers. Like they wrote, like Eric Wolpower wrote the Psychonauts, like story and dialogue and stuff like that. So you can tell, Psychonauts is full of jokes and humor. G-Man's journey through time, unused concept art for a red door sequence in Half-Life Alyx with the G-Man. Red door sequence? What's a red door sequence? I looked up red door sequence, and the only thing I can come up with is stuff about this, which I think I'm about to see. There's this area here, which is like definitely getting into the vault sort of thing. Yeah, red door. 1608. Ugh. You step through and you're back into like Half-Life 2 areas. This is the train yard where you can see G-Man in Half-Life 2 walking off in the distance. If you like go to this little corner and look through, you can see him walking off into a train tunnel. This is this is the area where you see G-Man standing up here and he walks inside this barn and disappears in Half-Life 2. This is one of the many this is when you can see G-Man in the like town area in episode 2. I didn't know you could see the G-Man here. Unless this is when you're looking from the other side of the water. No, it's different. That's different again. Yes, I remember this one. When you're on the far side of the bridge, you can see G-Man on the bridge. When you're at, like, up where the sniper tower is in episode 2. Leads through into Nova Prospect. Yep. Because you see him in the background of Nova Prospect. Yeah, this is the other side of the bridge. There's the door over there. I believe the G-Man is standing here. Isn't it there? It's here when Alyx and Gordon are up here looking out, and you can like see him up here and he like walks off. Yeah, I don't remember where exactly in this area, but I remember seeing G-Man in this area. Episode 2. So that was a red door sequence. I'm assuming the idea is that you step through the doors and you're traveling through time and space, basically. Fascinating. I love that idea. Basically seeing the events of Half-Life 2, Episode 1, and Episode 2 all at once. Yeah. Much like the jumpy Zen alien world at the end of Half-Life 1 and the overcharged gravity ball finale of Half-Life 2 inside the Citadel, Casali wanted the end of Alyx to have a unique gameplay twist. He started thinking of Scaramanga's Funhouse in The Man with the Golden Gun as inspiration. Ah, yes, I believe I know what they're talking about. Perhaps the team could put together a surreal and abstract experience inspired by G-Man's nebulous ways. What would it be like to play with the scale and play his perception of geometry? Yeah. Initial concept art from artist Jim Murray called for the ghostly sounds of past Half-Life events to play out in a time warp of sorts. Upon his release, the G-Man would lead Alyx through a series of red doors to revisit famous locations from previous and future Half-Life games. Oh, and future Half-Life games. That would have been fucking cool. If you see areas from the original game, but then you see an area and you're like, I don't recognize this area. And it's like, this is gonna be from the next game. Oh my god. That would have been really cool. But then that would lock Valve into something. And they never like to do that to themselves. I wouldn't like to do that to myself. Oh, in a way, the sequence would be a throwback to the start of Half-Life 2, where the G-Man introduction featured a quick clip from Black Mesa and previewed the Citadel in Half-Life 2. Yeah, yeah. We'll quickly look at this art here. Oh, wait, what does it say? Concept art Zen infestation on the streets of City 17. Right, yeah. Yeah, what is this? Are they like spraying Zen matter around, or are they vacuuming it up? Like, what are they doing? What is this? It looks like fleshy. So this is actually no, maybe this is. Oh, I don't know, but this is like this looks natural, like it's formed there over time, and then this one looks like it's been sprayed with something. Maybe that's what is in these bags. Maybe this is some sort of alien that sprays something that's like toxic, and so they're using it. They're like squeezing it to spray this toxic goo all over the Zen matter to try and get rid of it, to clean it up. I don't know. Let's have a read and see if it says anything. I don't think I would have liked that actually, because I feel like it would clash with my ideas of what is possible, or like what is. I feel like it clashes with motives. Apparently, one of the writers, Rob Yescombe, had an idea that they would teleport when G-Man's freed. G-Man and Alyx would teleport back to Black Mesa, and they would stop Gordon from pushing the alien Zen crystal into the antimass spectrometer, thereby preventing the resonance cascade. Apparently, his idea was judged too radical and never prototyped. I don't like that idea, purely for the fact that I'm convinced of a theory. There's a theory that's gone around about the G-Man, and this theory is centered on the idea that the G-Man intentionally caused the resonance cascade because he is a member. Like, there's this theory that the G-Man is actually an advisor from the original Advisor homeworld, the home reality dimension, whatever, and he has formed the appearance of the G-Man, of a human, because he's trying to save his people from Combine control. And the way he's trying to do it, essentially, in this context, in the game context, originally, he exposed Zen to the Combine intentionally. And when the idea is like the Zen forces by themselves are not strong enough to defeat the Combine. But then what he does is he intentionally connects Zen, when I say that he exposed them to Zen, I mean the original homeworld that Zen comes from, that the Zen creatures come from, because they come from another reality again. The creatures from a reality were beset by Combine. They fled into the Zen border world, which is once again probably exposed by the G-Man, and then we exposed ourselves with the Zen crystal stuff to a tear in space-time that Zen used, the creatures that are now in Zen used to get into our reality, which is like the Nilanth, head crabs, vortigaunts, all the bull squids, all the animals and stuff. The idea was that the idea that's has been floated around is that the G-Man intentionally brought the vortigaunts and the Zen creatures and humans together because the combined forces of humans and vortigaunts would be able to overcome the Combine menace, or hopefully overcome the Combine menace, so that he could free his own people. The G-Man's using other creatures and animals and stuff, other species, to fight the Combine, basically. Because his people have already basically been captured, and they're being used by the Combine against other creatures. So he's trying to, against other races and stuff. So he's trying to use other races to fight the Combine. Whether that's true, it's totally just made up by people online. But it's a neat idea. It's a neat idea, and I like that idea that the G-Man's basically, he knows the power of individuals like Gordon. He grabs them and uses them in specific areas, like you would use a squad, or like you would use an army, a specific army. He's using people like Gordon and placing them in strategic locations so as to fight the Combine and take them down. Yeah. He's like a commander. The G-Man is like a commander, and he talks about his employers, but he's talking really about the advisors who he's a part of. And that, like, when they find people that are useful for their cause, he, like, grabs them up, stores them, and then deploys them where they're best suited for dealing with a conflict, so that he might eventually free his people. I don't know. Enough rambling about that. Let's continue. We got this last chapter to finish. Apparently, Yescombe's ideas for story, though, didn't end up becoming true. It says, with the game set after the 7-hour war, the overall tone of Yescombe's initial narrative was darker and more somber than previous Half-Life games. The thing is, though, is that Half-Life 1 is already dark. And Half-Life 2 was originally going to be super dark, but then they went with a lighter feel. So he was going back to like a darker feel again. Initial levels featured Vorts being rounded up by Combine soldiers and paraded in front of citizens as a roadkill. Citizens of City 17 nervously shuddering in food ration lines, and a particularly squalid part of City 17 overrun with Zen alien debris. Gone were the babbling scientists of Black Mesa. In their place were Combine henchmen who ruled over the destitute streets of City 17 with fear and force. The thing is, that would suit if they were going for the original style, but the thing is, Half-Life 2 proved that Half-Life 2... Actually, wait, I should go backwards. Okay, I have to go this way. Means I have to go this way. There we go. Yeah. But the fact that Half-Life 2 is much lighter in heart, it wouldn't make sense that Alyx is dark. Yeah. For me, that wouldn't make sense, but whatever. Zen debris would infest City 17. Oh god, ugh. Yuck. Yeah. That's cool, I like that. I like seeing the Zen flora. That's like one of those teleporters that's in Half-Life, that in Black Mesa. When I say Black Mesa, I mean the game. The fan game. Ah, and there's the orb things that you steal from. That's cool. Yeah. Yeah, cool. In early passes of the script, Eli, captured by the Combine, was forced to read propaganda videos to protect his daughter. His captor was Han, or Han, a mysterious female agitator, whose brain had been sucked out and replaced by the Combine. I don't like that idea. Brain being sucked out. Ew. It's definitely preferable that they just have humans like Wallace or Mossman who are just, you know, Combine figures put in place. See, they set precedents with Half-Life 2, and you can't be darker than Half-Life 2 because it's before Half-Life 2. I feel like it's, I don't know. Yeah. In one proposed sequence, Han even tortured Eli after pushing back against recording yet another propaganda video. Alyx and Eli were conflicted with each other from the start of the game. She hated seeing her dad given to the Combine overlords on her behalf, even though he would, of course, do anything to protect his little girl. Eventually, Alyx would sneak out of the house they were sequestered in to meet up with Joseph, a Swedish punk rocker of an uncle who helped her free her father from the Combine's interdimensional clutch. Joseph was an evolution of the Laszlo characters first proposed by the Story Cabal. Interesting. This is the Combine captain. Alright. Cool. As Alyx ventured forth into City 17, certain NPC characters would present business cards they received from the G-Man. Each card had a unique word printed on the back, which the character would read aloud to Alyx. We wanted to build a mythology of how the G-Man exacts his influence. If he gives you a card, you read it, remembers Yescombe. I wanted to draw a comparison between the cue cards the Combine made Eli read in their propaganda and the sort of cosmic cue cards the G-Man made people perform. Right. Like the whole, prepare for unforeseen consequences thing in episode 2, I guess. Ultimately, when players made it to the vault and released G-Man, he would present Alyx with a card too, that she would read in one of the few lines of dialogue for Alyx in the game. Half-Life's protagonist Gordon Freeman never spoke in the other games, so whether Vance spoke any lines was an ongoing debate in the early years of the project. Yeah. This is a concept for Han, the original antagonist of Alyx. She does not look like she has her brain removed and replaced. This is why I don't like the idea of the brain removed and replaced thing, because I think it should just be a human who is working for the Combine. Much better in my mind. So they toyed with like different possible ways to change time with the G-Man, like going back to the start of the game and killing Han before she captures and tortures Eli. Yeah, talking here about an interesting fact with VR, and that is the difference in the amount of detail and the difference in the amount of attention players give any section. They're like talking about how, yeah, in regular games, you just speed through, like zoom through a room. You take a few seconds in a room. But in VR, you like really look at everything. People take a lot longer to move through rooms in VR. Early concept art of a basement level with the blind zombie, where a player's footsteps in water would create sound. Oh. That would suck. in the sense that, like, you're like, every time you step in water, you're like, fuck! You try and run off. Sucks not in like that it's bad, but in that it's like, that's fucking scary. Yeah. Oh, the part of the level with the blind zombie, or the Jeff, we have to collect the 3 batteries. Apparently that's been around since early days. Oh. There was an idea that experimented with using the blind zombie as a shield or decoy against a cannon that kept firing in the player's direction. You'd hide behind him and slowly make your way towards an exit. Yeah. Videos that shows the evolution of the blind zombie AI. Oh, yep. They like click a thing there, and now it's like that's the sound. Yes. The door keeps closing on him again. That didn't work out quite as well as they wanted it to. So right off the, like, fairly early on, they wanted to have less weapons, but more modifiability of the weapons. Intricate upgrades. Yeah, that's cool. Even reloading would be far more realistic than pressing the R button on a keyboard, yes. Basically pull out the shells or clips from the backpack and insert them into a gun like Alyx's pistol, yeah. Like Alyx's pistol, which is one of the few art assets from the unreleased Half-Life 2 Episode 3 that the team repurposed for the VR game. Ah, interesting. Huh. The one-handed shotgun in the game borrows visual language from Half-Life 2's famous pulse rifle, or AR-2. We had this idea that the Combine gathers up all the weapons after the 7-hour war and laser etch them to redistribute. That's why there's a laser etching on the top of the shotgun. I don't remember the laser etching, but that's fascinating. Because yeah, this is like a section of a regular shotgun. I never really looked closely at it. This is like the ending barrel section of a shotgun, and then they have Combine parts like attached, and they have a new trigger location. The trigger would normally be back here, and you stick your second hand underneath the shotgun, and you'd have like the trigger back here, but they brought the trigger forwards, and they cut off the end and the start of the shotgun. So you're left with just the middle section. That's cool. That's really cool. Huh. Oh, other weapons were prototyped, including a slingshot, a shield, a rocket launcher, a deployable trip mine, and a grenade with a pin. Two-handed weapons ended up being too cumbersome for players, of course, yeah, including the initial pass at a grenade, which required a free hand to hold it and another one to pull out the pin, yeah. So instead they had the button, like a click button that like pops off the pin, essentially. Half-Life's signature weapon, the crowbar, was also considered. Playtesters especially enjoyed holding the crowbar out in front of them and then teleporting into the enemy ahead for a forceful melee attack. But the crowbar was removed, in part because it's more closely associated with Gordon Freeman than Alyx Vance. Yeah, I think that's the right choice. I think that was the right choice. Alyx's pistol. Yeah. Oh. Oh. This is the base pistol. Dr. Leclarion. These are all the pieces being added to it. The auto loader. That's cool. Yeah, I liked the auto loader in that. Holy shit. Robin Walker also put together a VR playtest of his own using a custom map he created of his Seattle home, which was under renovation at the time. Here, just put on the headset and I'll show you how I think the place is going to look, Walker told his contractor one day at his house. Oh my god. Walker told him to press a button in the space, and instead of, like, turning lights on or doing something like that, it spawned zombies. That's silly. Alright, we're up to chapter 11. I was gonna record another episode of this today, but because, oh, smell the ashes, but it's just taking me so long to record. So I can't, I don't have time. I don't have time. But we're in the final stretch. We've got 11, 12, 13, 14, and 15, so we have the last 5 chapters to go. So no, unlike what I was hoping for, I was hoping that those 5 that I just read were going to be shorter for me to get through, because I was like, oh, there probably won't be like another 11-minute video like we watched earlier, and I won't be floundering around with the introduction like I did last time. But no, apparently those 5 were the same length as the first 6, because there's an introduction and then 5 chapters. We'll return for chapters 11 through 15 in the next episode. Hopefully you guys are enjoying this. I'm really enjoying this. I really enjoy seeing the development stuff like this. It's such a unique look. I love being able to see the behind the scenes and like the thought processes that go through developing certain things. I kind of wish there were some more details about some of the concepts in the game. Like I mentioned wanting to know what... They talked about Jeff earlier. I mentioned I wanted to know, what is Jeff? Is he just Zen flora that's like formed over a human? Is he like a head crab with Zen flora, or is he just a head crab mutation? What causes the mouth thing where the head used to be? Because like normally the head is where the head crab attaches and the head gets pushed back and the head crab becomes the head. But then there are versions of the zombies in the early games, in the early Half-Life games, where it turns into like a second stage of mutation. Sorry about that, got interrupted. So yeah, as I was saying, there's versions of headcrab zombies that have been like mutated to new stages, and I'm wondering if Jeff is just like a form of some kind of final or some kind of later stage mutation of a headcrab zombie. But then like if it is, how come the face is there and then like the head of the face like opens up? If it's a head crab zombie, surely the head crab part would be over the top of the face. So it can't be that. It must be something else. What is he? What is he? Whatever the case, if you like what you saw, hit like. If you want to see more from me, then subscribe. We'll be back with another episode of this next week to finish off. I'm doing it like 1 week at a time because they're just so long. Thank you so much for watching, and until next time.